I got reincarnated as a slime. I'm just gonna call it slime from now on because it's much easier for me to remember and say. But anyways, we were doing chapter 4 and we fitted it into one episode, which was great, right? But now we're going into chapter 5. In the last episode, I guess we were right in the beginning of the anime because we were introduced to the ogres. I mean, not the orcs, the ogres. So now we're gonna be doing or going towards chapter 5 in what is called Gabiru. Oh man, this guy. All right, so Gabiru's like the half dragon. Actually, they're a lizard, right? So what happens is the lizard evolved from the dragon. Apparently, I think that's how it went. I don't quite remember, but let's go on in here and we're gonna watch what happens. Now, Gabiru is a very, how should I call him? He's probably the annoying character of the bunch. I mean, he thinks he's the best and all, and then all of a sudden well, actually not all of a sudden. He thinks he's the best and all, except he sucks. All right, so that's the analysis there. And he's the king's son, which is the lizard race, the man lizard, lizard man. I don't even know what they call it anymore. I think it's called lizard man. But yeah, they're the descendants of dragons, and they can become dragons in a sort of way, in a sort of sense, actually. But not exactly dragons. So, because there's another race that is descendant of the dragon. So Gabiru is the lower descendant, so to speak, right? And then there's the higher one, and then there's the dragon itself.
あの忌まわしい豚どもに里は蹂躙し尽くされたのだ。多くの鎧を？ああ、人間の着用するようなフルプレートメイルだ。だとすると多くだけで動いているとは思えませんな。多くがそんな高価なものを用意できるわけがねえ。その通りだ。軍勢の中にいたあの仮面の魔人、あれは上位魔人だ。間違いない。そいつをリムル様と間違えて戦いを挑んだというわけですな。ああ、すまなかった。魔王のうちの誰かに多くが組みしたってことか。しかし魔王がなぜオーガの里を狙う？わからぬ。はっきりしているのは300人いた同胞はもうたった6人しかいないということだけだ。
なるほどな。そりゃ悔しいわけだ。
肉はもういいのか、リムル殿。
ちょっと食休み。お前の妹すごいな。薬草や香草に詳しくて、あっという間にゴブリノたちと仲良くなった。
箱入りだったからな。
So this is still the ogre part. They should have fitted this into the ogre part, but you know they didn't.
わかるにせよ、他の地に移り住むにせよ、仲間の命運はお前の采配に
Now this leader is a very proud person, so he doesn't want to bow down to people. But eventually he does, right?
こりゃノープランだな。提案なんだけどさ、お前たち全員俺の部下になる気はあるか？
部下？
まあ俺が支払うのは衣食住の保証のみだけどな。拠点があった方がいいだろ。
しかしそれではこの町を俺たちの復讐に巻き込むことに。
まあ別にお前たちのためだけってわけじゃない。数千の、それも武装した多くが攻めてきたんだろう。しかも魔王が糸を引いているかもしれないとか。
オークどもはこのジュラの大森林の支配権を狙っているやもしれませんな。
うん、この町だって決して安全とは言えないだろう。そんなわけで戦力は多い方がこちらとしても都合がいい。逆にお前たちに何かあった時には俺も一緒に戦う。俺は仲間を見捨てない。
なるほど。少し考えさせてくれ。
おう、じっくり考えてくれ。さてと、俺はもう少し肉をもらってこようかな。
悪い話ではない。だが決めるのはお前だ。我らはお前と姫様に従う。俺にもっと力があれば。
決めたのか？
オーガの一族は戦闘種族だ。人に仕え戦場をかけることに抵抗はない。主が強者ならなおのこと喜んで使えよう。契約は多くの主海を打ち滅ぼすまででいいか？
ああ、その後は自由にしてもらって構わない。俺たちに協力して国を作るもよし、旅立つもよしだ。
昨夜の申し出承りました。あなた様の配下に加わらせていただきます。
こいつの気持ちにもっと配慮すべきだったな。本当なら今すぐ差し違えてでも仇を討ちたいだろうに。これは自分自身の不甲斐なさを飲んだ一族の頭としての決断だ。俺にできるのはその決断を悔いなき者にしてやるだけだ。分かった。オーガたちをここへ呼べ。俺の配下となった証に名をやろう。あれ、なんでまたスリープモード？
上位の魔物に名付けをした場合、それに見合う魔素を消費します。
たった6人で？あ、だからあの時。
お待ちください。名付けとは本来大変な危険を伴うもの。それこそ行為の。
いいから大丈夫だって。すぐ調子に乗るのは俺の悪い癖だな。
シオン、そろそろ交代の時間です。
いいえ姫様、リムル様のお世話は私がします。どうぞお休みなさってください。
シオンたらもう。リムル様、おはようございます。
Alright, so what happened was that we given him a name, right? Or them a name, rather. And, you know, they evolve whenever you give them a name. And how that works is because in a game, right? Let's say in a game, you know, this is a game pretty much, but they don't tell you exactly it's a game, right? So basically in a game, what happens is that when you give, well, I mean, as a developer, right? Let's say you're a developer. If you just say, hey, these guys are called goblins, they're called goblins, right? That's the entire race sort of thing, right? But if you give them individually a name, like, hey, this elder is named David or something, right? I don't know. I mean, I just kind of made that up right off the top of my head. They're more recognized, right? They're like, hey, you're different, right? You're like, you know, they actually have something. Unlike the ones that have nothing, that it's just like, oh, that guy's just a goblin. You don't have to know who he is, man. He's just a regular goblin. That's about it. He's a goblin. Like, nothing special, right? But when you give them a name, they're special. So that's why when you give them a name, they improve. I guess that's so to speak. That's my guess. They don't really tell you in the anime, so I'm guessing hypothetically through, how should I say it? You know, through my experience in gaming.
あと一人はどうした？
ああ、奴はカイジン殿の工房に入り浸ってて。リムル様が目覚めたためか？
おお、あまり変わってない。謎の安心感。
リムル様、元気になってよかっただよ。若かな。ほら、黒兵衛だ。
仲良くしような、黒兵衛。 そんな中ジュラの大
Alright, so those were the ogres. Remember, ogres and orcs are different, you know? I mean, looking at them, they pretty much sound the same. It's just that maybe you're thinking somebody pronounced it differently.
聞いてくれ
Like, orcs are pigs.
だからさ
Ogres are
ありがとう
like,
ございます
I don't know, things with horns, I guess? Don't ask me. I mean, there's difference in ogres in almost everything. There's no horns in the one in, what do you call it? The Hobbit.
なあベニマル記事
それは
おおあデザイン
感謝します。
書く。
Alright, so I'm gonna build my stuff.
書く。
Okay, let's go back to the quest. It made no sense that was Gabiru, but I guess it's kind of the beginning of the Gabiru saga. So let's continue on. I know that it was a relatively long scene.
報告します。
Not a big fan of it, but what can you do? So these are Lizardman, right? I was talking about. That's what you see Lizardman A and Lizardman B.
数はどのくらい？
それが
See, like the guard.
そに
So there's 200,000 orcs after them.
熱源感じて何度も確認しました。
ご苦労。
And Lizardman is a like the degradation of the dragon. They're a descendant of the dragon race.
のない連中。噂です。
Like I was saying before.
なんだ
I'm just gonna tap some of it because
オークロード。
I think this is relatively gonna be long. I mean, we're only on second. I guess I could always split into part A and part B, make it 20 minutes each.
可能性の話だ。だが、打てる手はすべて打つべきだ。
打てる手と言いますと。
援軍を頼む
But
べ
you
きだ。
should really watch the anime instead of focusing on
我が息子は
the game. The anime is much better, unfortunately. Like everything else. I mean, the anime is always better. Now, the game's more playable. That's the thing. I mean, you get to play it.
ガビルというゲルミッド様からいただいた名前があるのですから
I don't even know if Gabiru is an English name or a Japanese name because he literally said Gabiru.
お前にや
Because you know how Japanese names in English don't really make sense? It's like, I was just watching Scarlet Nexus and the name in English, in our world English, is called Karen, right? I mean, K-A-R-E-N, right? Karen. But they call it, I think it was like Karen or something. Which is like I was mentioning before in my other video that there was a word, G-U-Y, right? I mean, that's guy, right? In the English-speaking world, it means male. But in the Japanese world, they call it gi. But the thing is with that is, usually, you know how some Asian languages, I don't know which one, if they do even some like pronunciation changes into English, they have like hyphens, dots, and other things to drag it out, right? To how you pronounce it. But Japanese don't do that. They literally made up their own English.
加減はせんよ。
So you can't really pronounce it unless you hear them say it once before, right? It's like there was no way I could actually make out G-U-Y was gi. I mean it like, you know, if you gave G-U-Y to anybody in the English-speaking world, they would think it's guy, right? But it's gi in that world.
増やせるけど
これが戦場なのですね
So there's 8 stages here, according to my other game, which means that we're only on the 3rd one.
そ
It's relatively slow.
悲しい出来事に
So I guess we are gonna split into part A and part B, or part 1 and part 2.
不思議に満ちた自分の顔を映す水たまりだけ
希望が欲しい
いらない絶望を知るから滅ぼされた過去は変えられない
変えられるとしたら、あの多くは仲間の死にも微動だにせずこの里を蹂躙した あなたたちに足りなかったのはそれよ。
心を捨てれば勝てたとでも。
試しに捨ててみなさいな。死んでいったオーガの魂はまだこの里に無産し漂っている。
何が言いたい？
その魂を逃さずすべて体内に取り入れなさい。
魂を取り入れる？
そう、食らい尽くすの。多くと同じように。
おいおい、もう十分だろう。
あと少しだけ試着してほしい服があるんです。
こちらの服も似合うんじゃないですか？
脱いだり着たりする身にもなってくれ。もうずっと姿見の前から動いてないぞ。しかし、なんだろう。鏡を見ると嫌な気持ちになってくる。なんか鏡に嫌な思い出があるような。
やっと濁ってない綺麗な鏡が使えるわ。
この声、そうだ、何度かこんな展開が。誰なんだお前は。
そう焦らなくてもすぐに会えるわ。こっちに来ればね。
鏡の中に。また過去の世界か。
リムル様、これは。
どうして私たち森に？
シュナ、シオ、お前ら本物なのか？
本物と言いますと？
さっきまで試着室にいたはずなのに。
本物っぽいな。今までは俺以外のみんな様子のおかしい偽物だったが。
リムル様、
ん？
どうして？なんで私が？
しかも前のオーガだった頃に
私が2人？
いえ、
当然だ。オーガの魂、オーガの集合体。名はドドメキ。そこのスラ。
もしかして
ドドメキと言いましたか？
Alright, so this is new. This girl never showed up in the anime and is part of the special dark side sort of thing in the game, which is unique. I mean, it's better than something that copies the anime exactly. I mean, it's kind of boring that way. At least, you know, you get something new, right?
ようやく顔を拝めたな。お前なんだろ？
What the hell are
この
you?
ような世界を作ったのは。
ご明察。私は鏡の魔女イージス。どうぞよしなに。
鏡の魔女。そういや、俺がここに来るときはいつも鏡を見たときだったな。これがお前の言ってた鏡の国ってやつか？
そうね。ここは鏡に映ったもう一つの世界だけど、現実の世界とはちょっとだけ違うわ。
ちょっとってか、だいぶ違うように見えるけどな。
人は鏡を前にすると無意識にいい顔を作ろうとする。鏡に映るのは真実じゃない。むしろ虚飾。常に理想の自分が映るものなの。
この力。
誰かの理想通りに過去をねじ曲げてるってことか。道理で。
Now, I can't even make out if they're actually speaking exactly line for line for the dialogues because I don't really understand Japanese. I kind of wish that they made it into English, right? I mean, they dubbed it. The thing is, I feel like the game was just imported from Japanese. They just translated from Japanese to English using the dialogue. And one day in the future, right, they will translate all games into English, all anime games, before they release it. I mean, we're not at that point yet. I remember back in the day, nobody would play the Japanese game, right? Even Dragon Ball. I mean, even though we look at Dragon Ball as it is today, I mean, if you went back to the 90s, right,
鏡の中で誰が何してようといいけどさ。
People bought the Dragon Ball games. I don't even think it sold that well.
あなたが
Right?
欲しい
It wasn't popular.
リムルテンペスト
And it was in the 2000s is when it started getting
あ
popular.
なたの中に
Because they started making it into English.
捉えなさいドドメキ
And usually, generally speaking, somehow,
いきなりかよ。
you know, if you're from the West, when you hear a foreign language, you kind of really get irritated, right? That's how it is.
この手で始末をつける。角を伸ばして牙を抜いた鬼がよく吠える。忌々しい多くが今もなお各地を食い荒らしているというのに、洋服片手にままごととは。これが
Not everyone's like that, but, you know, there's quite a bit of people that are like that. That's why they started translating the anime into English. I mean, before it got into English, the anime, it was only mostly watched by Asians, right? And then when they translated it into English, then it became popular.
もはやただの習性。
And that's the truth.
獣と変わらんわ。
Well, before it became popular in the West, anyways. So you gotta really separate it between the West and the East, I guess, to sort of speak.
それで満足か。当然です。私はリムル様の下でリムル様と共に強くなる。それではお前は生涯同胞の
Holy
形
shit,
を
this
失
is
せまい。
long.
何が言いたいんですか。確かにそのすらだが多くの強それでもああ私はごめんだ。私の
話し合える状態。
その柔らどうなっている。
超速再生だ。
こっち
じゃあ
ドドメキのせ
残機があ
I'm
る。
just gonna tap it. Holy shit, dude.
行きましょう。
その力
まったくスライム使いが荒いな。楽しい
So I guess this is part A. Luckily, we could beat them relatively quickly because I leveled up my characters. But if I hadn't leveled up my characters, hell, it would have been probably a hard, tough battle.
とんでもないことが起こる。
Alright, we'll be back with part
面倒
B
はごめんだけど
in the next
避けられ
video.
ないんだよな。